The race for 2020 is on, so we're helping you keep track of the most important issues and where the candidates stand on them. Issues like criminal justice reform. Now, I know that's a broad issue, big umbrella, lots of issues under it. But big picture here, the candidates running in 2020, including President Trump, are pretty much in agreement that reform needs to happen. They just differ on the specifics. Most of the Democratic candidates want to reform the bail system, legalize marijuana, reduce mandatory minimums, and decriminalize border crossings. A few have taken stances on single issues like Cory Booker on reforming drug laws and Julian Castro on using the federal housing system as a means for change. Bernie Sanders released a sweeping plan to reform the criminal justice system. It calls for abolishing for-profit prisons, reforming police and prison systems, and ending mass incarceration. There's also Elizabeth Warren, who's called for the repeal of the 1994 crime bill. But even though everyone is in agreement that the system needs reform, a few candidates will have to answer for their pasts. For example, Michael Bloomberg, as mayor of New York City, he supported stop and frisk policing, which gave New York City police officers the authority to stop and search anyone they suspected of a crime. According to the New York Civil Liberties Union, stops peaked in 2011 while Bloomberg was mayor, more than 685,000 stops that year. And the majority of those stops involved African Americans and other young men of color. The NYCLU also found that 9 out of 10 stopped and frisked New Yorkers were innocent. Bloomberg continued to be supportive of stop and frisk even after a federal judge ruled it violated the constitutional rights of minorities. When he announced he was jumping into the presidential race years later, Bloomberg apologized for stop and frisk.
I didn't understand that back then, the full impact that stops were having on the Black and Latino communities. I was wrong, and I'm sorry.
Now he says he wants to cut the amount of juveniles and adults who are incarcerated and invest in communities to prevent gun violence. Then there's Joe Biden. His criminal justice plan emphasizes a shift from punishment to prevention. But remember that 1994 crime bill I mentioned? Biden helped write it. And some critics say it contributed to mass incarceration that disproportionately affected Black Americans.
This notion that this is not tough. There are 60 new penalties, 60 new death penalties, brand new, 60. There are 70 additional enhancements of penalties, i.e., you go to jail longer.
The former VP is also the only candidate who opposes legalizing marijuana at the federal level. For his part, President Trump has made strides on criminal justice reform. He signed into law the First Step Act, which aims to reduce sentences for federal inmates convicted of nonviolent drug offenses, and so far has sent a few thousand people home from prison. So where do Americans stand on all this? According to a poll from 2018, 3/4 of Americans think the criminal justice system needs significant improvements. So as Election Day gets closer, we'll be keeping an eye on the issue and where the candidates stand. Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.